Very warm welcome to all of you to Ayurvedic Healing and Beyond webinar. Okay, so we'll start with a short Vedic chant. If you can keep your eyes closed. If you can keep your eyes closed. Relax your shoulders. Relax your neck. Relax your jaws. And relax your whole head to neck to shoulder region. Relax your spine. Relax your chest. Relax your lower back. Relax your abdomen. Relax your hips. Relax your thighs, your knees, your ankles, and let your whole body relax with your eyes closed. And we do a short Vedic chant by invoking the blessings of gurus, teachers, and sisters, and also an intention where we all can learn together and evolve together and coexist in harmony together. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanav Bunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavati Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And slowly you can open your eyes. So once again, a very warm welcome to all of you to Ayurvedic Healing and Beyond webinar. And today's topic, we're going to discuss about the doshas of the mind, which is also called as Rajas and Tamas. I'm sure many of you must have heard about the word Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, which are highly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, in Ayurveda, in yoga. And in some books, it is mentioned Rajas and Tamas is not good. We should always aspire for Sattva, which we will try to explore. Is it really bad or is it something that we need? And also we understand about the concept of emotional triggers, which is very important, especially in the times when many people are suffering with uncertainty and PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Now, why I keep doing lectures on these topics is the last few months, the more and more online consultations that I do, I face enormous number of issues with anxiety, emotional unresolved triggers that is developing to many chronic ailments. And most of my consultations are dealing with that. And many people come with neurological problems, irritable bowel syndrome, menopause issues, fertility issues, hormonal issues. And to a great extent, when I'm helping them to resolve some of their emotional patterns and emotional issues, their ability to recover is just phenomenal, and which is many of the modern medicine is not able to resolve. So that is why I started learning and researching and studying and also practicing more into understanding the body mind concept. And the more we are able to understand this connection, we have no idea how powerful we can improve the quality of our life. In fact, many people, we don't understand to what extent our emotions can have an influence in our energy levels. So in ancient times, the rishis in Ayurveda, in yoga, in many of the Eastern medical holistic approaches, you will see a lot of influences of why it is so important to bring balance in our mind in order to help our body recover faster. In fact, in Ayurveda, the analogy given for body and mind is like a pot with a ghee. Like you have a pot and you have ghee inside that. And it says if the ghee is hot, the pot will also become hot. And if the pot is hot, it will also make the ghee hot. So it is like it is complementary to each other. The same is with our mind and body. When our body is healthy, it is much easier to relax our mind. And when our mind is relaxed, it's much easier to have a healthy body. And the same way, it is like chicken and egg. It is very difficult to understand what is first, but we have to have dual approach and a holistic approach. Now, in Vedic science, there is a mantra called as Aham Brahmasmi. Aham means my purest self or me, Aham. Brahma, the word Brahma, there is a god called as Brahma. In Vedic sciences, there is a personality that is personifying an energy of creation, which is called as Brahma. In fact, the word Brahma, it actually means, the word Bra actually means to expand, to evolve, or to create. The word create is the best word for the word Bra. And Ma means myself. That is why the word Brahmacharya means rituals to expand your creative self. The activities that will expand your true creative self. That is what the word Brahmacharya means. Or Brahmachari means somebody who's involving in activities that is exploring his true authentic self. Because the word authentic, we all aspire to be our true self. And whenever we are not our true self, that is when we get into unwanted conflicts because of fear of being ourselves, or everyone to some extent is going through a resistance to be comfortable with their true self. And that is what we all are going through. That is what evolution is all about. And the state of being your authentic self or connected with your highest self is to a hypothetical way, we can call it as the state of enlightenment. In Ayurveda, we have the word called swastha, which is called as the optimal health. And the word swastha means connected to your truest self. And whatever is coming between my purest self and where I am right now, and that is what is called as resistance or dis-ease. And that ease is your ability to connect with your true self. And the word dosha, in Ayurveda, it is mentioned, Rajas and Tamas are called as the doshas of the mind. Like Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are the doshas. Rajas and Tamas are called as the doshas of the body, of the mind. Now, why is it called dosha? Now, usually when you see many of the translations, the word dosha is called as something that which is bad, something that is like a constitution. The literal meaning of the word dosha is something that has the potential to trigger. Doesn't mean it is always bad. It just has a potential to trigger. For example, somebody has a very weak gut. If they consume milk, they could have allergies. So that means milk is a dosha to their gut, because it can create lactose intolerance issues, allergic reactions because of lactose consumption. For somebody else, it need not create that problem. Somebody else, milk could be nourishing. But if there is an overconsumption of lactose, it can lead to a lot of intolerance, allergies. So to someone to whom it can create intolerance problems or side effects or allergies, that is a dosha. But for someone else, it could be a medicine. So that is why everything in this world, sarvam jagatyeva aushadam. That is a statement in Ayurveda. It means everything in this planet is a medicine. It's just that we need to know where to use it, when to use it, the dosage of it. And at the same time, if you use it wrong, it could be poisonous. So the word dosha means it has a potential. It is prone. Like sometimes when you go through certain road, you will see accident prone area. You have to drive safely. So the word prone, accident prone, the same way, Rajas and Tamas, it is not that it is bad. It has a potential to create dangerous problems with your emotions, with your mind. In later, it can have problems with your body also. So that is what the word dosha means. It doesn't mean that it is inherently bad. It just has a potential. If we don't treat it well, it can be a potential problem. In fact, the word vata, pitta, and kapha, it is also called doshas when it is in imbalance. When it is in balance, it is actually called as dhatus. The word dhatu means that which protects you, that which supports you, that which nourishes you. So vata, pitta, and kapha, in balance, it nourishes you. In imbalance, it can destroy you or create disease. The same with the concept of rajas and tamas. So in Ayurveda, it does not mention sattva. Sattva is not even considered in any of that. In fact, if you look at what is rajas, the word rajas means activity. Like in doshas, we have the word vata. Vata means movement. And rajas means activity. There is a lot of fieriness. I want to get things done. I want to move. I want to achieve. And the emotions like anger, frustration, it is all something that is also emotions like passion. It is something associated with rajas. And if you, or excitement is also something associated with rajas. And if you look at tamas, the word tamas also means darkness. Like, in fact, the word guru, which is a word we attribute to stability or heaviness, or also a teacher, somebody who's giving knowledge, it's also called as heaviness, and tamas is also called as heaviness. In fact, why is a guru? In fact, in Ayurveda, we have this concept of guru adi gunas, which means gunas or qualities starting with guru onwards. Like there are 20 qualities. Now, when somebody is suffering with issues of too much of heaviness, we need to reduce the heaviness and bring in more lightness. When somebody is suffering with too much of cold issues, we need to bring more heat towards that. Somebody is having issues of dryness, we need to bring more oil or moist towards that. So understanding the opposites and treating with these opposites is one of the ways of treatment. So rajas is one hand where there is too much of activity, and tamas is there is lack of activity or inactivity. In fact, these two are very important in our life. Sometimes when there is extreme tamas, that is when people get into depression, like sedentary lifestyle. People are not moving, the word couch potato. They just don't feel any possibility to do anything. In fact, the word in English, in many of the positive psychology words, they use the word, I feel stuck and I want to be unstuck. I feel stuck in my life. I'm not able to move forward. Now, that is an issue with tamas. And tamas is heaviness. Now, I'll come back to the word guru later. Why guru and tamas have the same synonyms, but what is the significant difference between guru and tamas? Now, the word tamas means you are stuck. You are not able to move. Your ability to perform something new, your ability to be creative, it is all dormant. It is like a dormant energy. It doesn't mean you don't have the energy. It is just dormant inside of you. And the word rajas is extreme opposite, where you're full of activity. I just wanted to perform. Like they say, I want to go to Mars. I want to achieve so and so my big, hairy, audacious goals. These kind of things are symbols of or something that is related to the word rajas. And anger is something related to rajas. Frustration is related to rajas. Passion is related to rajas. Now, the word sattva comes in between that. You have rajas, you have tamas, in between you have sattva. The word sattva comes from the word sat. Like we have the term sat chit ananda. Satya. Satya means truth. Satya has the word from sat. In Ayurveda, we have a word for nutrition called satmya. Satmya means that which is wholesome. Something that which you consume, which is wholesome for you. And the word sattva. The word sat literally means purity. And purity means there is no adulteration. There is no influence of something that is not healthy. So that purity is what we call it as your true self. And when you are able to tap into the energy of sattva, that is when you are able to tap into rajas when you want it, and you're also able to tap into tamas when you want it. We need tamas, we need rajas. It is not that rajas is bad, it is not that tamas is bad. In fact, when you get up in the morning, you have to get moving, you have to, indulge in things that is making you happy with doing activities, doing creative works, doing your daily routines. All these activities are rajas. And tamas is Okay, certain times the best thing to do is not doing anything. Many people, they are not able to sit still. They are not able to just calm down. They are not able to relax. And this ability to relax is our ability to tap into the tamasic energy. But sometimes the relaxation can be just too much. It's just tired. I just don't feel like doing anything. They're not able to get into that. And the more we are able to attain the state of sattva, doesn't mean that when we reach sattva, we do not get into rajas or tamas. It just says when we get into the state of sattva as much as possible, we have the freedom to choose when to be in the state of rajas and when to be in the state of tamas. By intelligence, by default factory settings, our body has a sattva, rajas, and tamas. At night, we go to sleep, that is tamas. The morning, we get up, that is rajas. So, this is very important for us. Sometimes we get excited about certain issues, that is rajas. Sometimes it turns us down. I don't feel like doing anything. This really puts me down. That is again tamas. So, on one hand, we can go on an autopilot mode. On one hand, we do have the choice to move forward with that. And the purpose of this lecture is how can we tap into more of this sattva quality? Now, again, when I say getting into sattva quality doesn't mean that we are not getting into rajas and tamas. This is one big myth that we have. Rajas and tamas is not good because it is considered to be doshas. Rajas and tamas are equivalent aspects. It's like saying, I don't want anything cold, I don't want anything hot. We need both the temperatures, both the extremes. It is a part of the nature's ecosystem. Only thing is, we need to find that balance, not too tight, not too loose, just right. And that ability to staying in that right and choosing where to choose tamas, where to choose rajas, and that is what we call it as ability to get into sattva. In fact, some of the teachers who talk about Bhagavad Gita, they say that the ultimate essence of Bhagavad Gita is to how you can get into the state of sattva as much as possible. Because the more we are able to get into the state of sattva, our ability to deal with life is much easier because we are able to have our energy resources in the right way. We are able to explore the possibilities with the right way of responding, not automatic or autopilot reactions. And this concept of sattva is also the word clarity comes in there, because sattva means pure, sattva means clear, pure. And also in the Vedic philosophies and some of the stories, there is a god called Vishnu. He has something called as Sudarshana Chakra. Sudarshana Chakra, it is something whenever he encounters with the devil or a demon, he releases a wheel which is filled with sharp edges that goes and cuts the devil and kills the devil. And it is called as Sudarshana Chakra. The word Sudarshana, let's decode this word. It's quite interesting. The word darshan means vision, your ability to see things. And the word su means your ability to see beyond what you can just see with your eyes and seeing it with clarity. So when you have a fog, there is a special fog light. When you turn on that fog light, you're able to see beyond that fog. And that is what is called as a light, which you can also call it as Sudarshana light. And that chakra is a wheel that cuts across your ignorance, so you're able to see things in the right way. Even though our hormones, our cravings, our past patterns, our patterns from the ancestors, that could sometimes come and inhibit certain things and influence certain things. But our ability to cut through that and see things in clarity, that is what spiritual growth is. That is what healing is. That is what coming from a state of dis-ease to ease is. And that is what is connecting to your swastha. And in fact, the word pain is called as ruk, which means anything that blocks the natural flow of energy. So when we are not connected with our true self, when we are not able to see things clearly, there is a block in the natural flow of energy. And it is our duty to get rid of that. So how do we how do we improve our ability to see things in clarity? For that, let us understand some of the words associated with emotions. Now, we've been talking about the word dosha. Dosha means that which is triggering or that which can disturb. In fact, the word emotion, it has its root from the word emovere. I'm not sure if it is Greek or Latin, but the word emovere, if anybody knows if emovere is Greek or Latin, if you can put in the comments, it will be helpful so I can tell. But the word emovere literally means to disturb. And that is what emotion is. Emotion is something that is coming from the word actually called as disturb. And the word dosha is also something that is going to disturb. So once we know, thank you, Tonya. So emovere is Latin. So the word emotion comes from the word emovere, which is a Latin word called as anything that can potentially disturb. So once we know this has a potential to disturb, what we have to understand is what is the message that is trying to give us. Once I know if I go to a cold place, the cold is going to hit me. Once I can anticipate that, I can protect myself. I can heat up my room. I know that I need to moisturize my skin very well. I need to cover my head properly. So, and especially if you have allergies to cold climate, you need to protect yourself even more. So, anticipating what could go wrong, these are the potential triggers. On one hand, taking care of that, how you can protect yourself. And on the other hand, you need to work on how to go beyond that. So that is what the knowledge of doshas is, the science of Ayurveda is. And what emotion is talking about is emotion can also be called as a state of your energy levels. Now, if you try to understand what could be a Sanskrit word for the word emotions, there are many words mentioned in Sanskrit that can attribute to the word emotions. And one of the word is bhava. The bhava means your state of being. State of being. And that is what the word emotion is also about. When I'm happy, my state of energy is I'm quite energetic. When I'm sad, my energy levels dip. When I'm angry, maybe I have a lot of energy, but maybe I'm not able to use it in the right way. And when I'm frustrated, the energy is also in a different way. So there are many ways of looking at what the emotion is. Now, there's a statement, don't kill the messenger just because you don't like the message. This is a very powerful statement. In fact, many of the great emperors, many of the great dynasties started to perish because they were not ready to take the feedback in the right manner. They were trying to suppress it. They wanted only the message that is going to make them feel good. If a message is coming that is going to make them feel sad, upset, they just kill that person who is coming with that bad message. And that you could see in history, whenever you see some dynasty, some king, some kingdom that got perished, it all started with when people are not taking the right feedback. Emotion is your current state of energy and also the feedback you are getting for how you are interacting with the outside world. If I am happy, my interaction with the outside world is something good. If I'm frustrated, there is something in the outside world that needs to change. In fact, the word for happiness in Sanskrit is called as santosha. Now let us decode this word santosha. Santosha has two sounds, san and tosha. San means complete. Tosha means acceptance. When I'm able to accept everything that is outside without any resistance, that is when I'm happy. Whenever there is a resistance, I'm not happy. And that is also the word, if you again go back to the word dis-ease. I'm not able to be at ease with this reality. Something is blocking me. So emotion is like a guide. It's like a GPS system. You know, when you're not going in the right direction, that lady will keep telling you, move right. You're not in the right direction. So when you're not happy with that direction, what that lady is saying in the GPS, you don't break it. It's like, you know, when you step on the weighing scale, if you don't like the number that is showing up, you don't break that weighing scale. You try to change your lifestyle. You try to change what is going inside your mouth. Maybe you try to exercise more. Maybe you work on your metabolism, how to improve your metabolism. But in fact, if we break the Weighing scale, maybe to some extent it is helping us to relieve that, but we are not working on what is coming. And that is what the word Sudarshana means, ability to see things clearly. And that ability to see things clearly comes with practice, that comes with awareness. And that is why we have the word called as dhyan. Dhyan means our ability to still the mind in the sense to still our past patterns that are coming to our mind, to foresee what is there in the future or foresee the current reality. To a great extent, our past memories are very helpful for us to understand what is happening, because if I see something that which is poisonous and if I've had experience in the past, that will really help me. But every time I see something similar to that, and if that message keeps coming back, that is not going to help us. So on one hand, we need to get the best out of our past experiences. On the other hand, we should also give a benefit of doubt. Is there something new to this reality? That state is the sweet spot of where the growth is happening in ourself. And attaining that spot is what we call it as the word Sudarshana, the ability to see things in clarity. Yes, I've had it in the past, but that doesn't mean right now what is happening, it has to be something similar. Maybe there is something much more. And that is why we have this word called as unconditional acceptance. The conditions or conditioning is something that is coming from our past. It could be coming from our ancestors, coming from the culture that we are brought up in. But the reality, it could be something different. So understanding things could, giving the benefit of doubt that world and our experiences is way, way beyond what my past is, what I have experienced. That ability to give that benefit of doubt is one of the key factors of neutralizing our emotional triggers. And also, that is also the state of what we call it as sattva. To understand, should we have this rajas or should we have this tamas? Now, let us go through some of the examples. Now, let's say there is a lady and she was walking into a home and somebody is opening the door. In case if this lady had had some issues with some men trying to help her, that means she is weak. She would be like quite upset. How dare you do this? You think I cannot open the door by myself? I can do it by myself. On the other hand, there's another lady. She's also walking in. A man opens the door. And for her, if somebody opens the door, it means how lovely that person is trying to help. It's all coming with the past memories, past experiences. It is in the Vedic terms, there is a word called as vasana. In fact, the word vasana means smell. But that smell is something, let's say I put some special juice or I cut some onions with my knife. And with the same knife, if I cut something else, some fruits, the smell and the taste of that onion will also be included in that fruit. And that is what is called as vasana. So sometimes this vasanas can come and disturb our current reality. And our ability to understand, is it my vasana or is it something different? And to giving that benefit of doubt, to cut over that vasana, to remove that vasana. And that is what is the state of sattva. So in order to do that, let us explore a little more on the concept of emotions. We mentioned, don't kill the messenger just because you don't like the message. And the word emotion comes from the word emovere, which means that which can disturb. An emotion is a state of your energy levels at this point of time. When I'm driving a car and I see my fuel tank is coming to end, I don't get upset with my car. I see that the fuel is low. I have to stop. I have to refuel it. Only then I have energy. When you see you're bored, your energy is low. When you're happy, your energy is high. When I'm angry, your energy is there. Maybe you have to shift the gear. There is a lot of vibration, but I have to take it to the next level. Somewhere things are not going in the right manner. So there are emotions which are of positive energy, which are of higher vibration, which are of good energy. And there are emotions which are of lower energy and of lower vibration. Just like how we mentioned, Rajas is important, Tamas is important. Same way, every emotion is very important for us. Every emotion is there for a reason. In fact, in modern psychiatry, there are more than 3,000 words associated with different emotions that a human being goes through. And half of them makes us feel good, half of them makes us not so good. And our ability to identify these emotions is so crucial, because once you are able to identify the emotion, we can understand what is the action signal. Now, fear is an emotion. Now, what is the word fear is trying to tell? That we need to do something, we need to act upon. Let's say there is a wild animal chasing you, there is a fear that will come into us because of our innate intelligence to protect ourselves, to survive. But when that fear is happening, it is important to understand, okay, there is something coming. As long as we are able to convert that emotional signal of fear into an action to protect that emotion, we have identified it in the right way. That ability to convert the action signal to an action, that ability is what is called as ultimate sattva or sattvic energy, so that we can get into rajas or tamas in the right manner. Sometimes the best thing we need to do is just do nothing, passive, and that is what is tamas. Many times we observed, I wish I didn't say that, I wish I didn't do this. In fact, if I haven't reacted that manner, I would have saved a lot of things, but I can't believe I did that. Somewhere my past came and influenced me, and I did that. So to do that, we have to understand what is the action signal each and every emotion is saying. Now, why we say all emotions are important? Now, let us see, all the greatest inventions that happened, all the great revolutions that have happened, it is because people actually got really frustrated. Mahatma Gandhi, he didn't start this Quit India movement and this anti-colonial movement because he was very happy. It is because he got deeply frustrated. When he was in South Africa, he got thrown out of the train. And that gave a lot of frustration that led to anger. And he wanted to use that energy in a positive way to make a change. So frustration is an action signal that I need to change something, that I do not tolerate what is going on. Maybe I cannot control it, but I do have the possibility to make little changes and influence it. And that is what our ability to deal with this. So once we understand all the action signals, why these are things, even if you take more about frustration, Rosa Parks in United States, when she was told you cannot sit in this, you have to go and stand, and she said, no, I'm not going to go and stand in the front of the bus. I deserve to sit here. That led to many revolution. Same manner, all these changes are happening because people got into deepest frustration. And sometimes this frustration could be a collective thing. Now that collective frustration leads to global revolutions that are happening. And on another hand, people who are satisfied, it is not necessary that they go and change things, because a lot of energy comes from that frustration, which is actually what is rajas. So that is why it is okay to be frustrated. It is okay to feel not happy with it. But as long as you're able to take that action signal, the problem is we get stuck in that action signal. Just because we don't like the message, we try to kill that messenger. For example, I've seen sometimes parents, when they are with their children, sometimes the kids fall down or they get hurt by hitting some table or on the floor. Suddenly the kid starts crying, and somebody will go and hit that floor, telling that kid that it is the floor that has made him upset, so we should go and hit the floor. I don't know in Western countries if this happens, but this happens a lot in India. And the moment you do that, what you're trying to tell is, it is the floor that is hurting you, you're not responsible. And that feeling of victimhood starts from there for every one of us. I mean, not saying every one of us, if you have undergone that, that is where many of the victimhood actually starts. So whenever you see a child, if you are a parent and if you have a child, and if the child falls down, don't go and blame it on the floor or on some furniture. Let the child take responsibility. By taking responsibility, he's trying to understand where these potential triggers are coming. After all, being authentic, it is all about taking complete responsibility of ourselves. Healing, it's again taking complete responsibility of ourselves. And the state of being in sattva is again our ability to stay in that state where we can take that responsibility. So, coming to the emotions, the frustration is good. Now, sometimes, people ask, what is the opposite of happiness? People think it is sadness, or people think it is grievance, or people think it is depression. In fact, the opposite of happiness is actually boredom. Now, what do we mean by the word boredom? See, happiness energy is high, boredom is a little bit in the middle, and grievance or depression is low, and also even the tendency to commit suicide, which is like there is no more hope for life, that is in the lowest part. And the highest part is what we call it as happiness, joy, bliss, or even state of enlightenment. Or it can go up and it can come down. So this ladder of emotions, and in staying in that middle part where we are able to understand the rajas and tamas, which one to tap on, is very important. Now, why we are talking about boredom here? Boredom is that one area in our emotional part. Either we can go down the lane or we can go up the lane. Today, because of constant excitements that we are having, because of the gastronomic pleasures that are easily available, because of the constant entertainments that we constantly have, be it with social media, be it with television, be it with YouTube, or even all the kind of excitements, instant gratification that we are having, we are not in a position to deal with boredom. Today, the word boredom, I get bored so easily. In fact, I confess myself, I used to have this issue. I get bored so easily. I need to do something creative. And sometimes that could lead to unhealthy binging. It could be I go and sit on Netflix for a long period, even though if I'm watching some docu-series that are enlightening me or educating me and making me learn. But sometimes this constant need for I need to do something exciting, that can bring a mark or obstruction to this idea of sudarshana, the ability to see things clearly. Now, how to embrace boredom? Embracing boredom, in fact, we have a new word today. It is called as mindfulness. Mindfulness doesn't mean when boredom doesn't mean something is bad. Boredom just means that you are so numb in accepting and seeing the little things in your day-to-day life. You are constantly in need of something, a blockbuster excitement. Only then I feel alive. And that is why people also get into stress modes quite often. Once we understand what are my triggering factors for certain patterns, it actually roots down to boredom. And if we go a little more towards boredom, where is this boredom coming from? It can even go to another feeling of loneliness. I feel lonely. I feel I'm not able to connect with anything. And what is loneliness? I'm not able to connect, relate. I'm not able to feel in harmony with something. I feel insecure. And that insecurity starts with boredom. And that boredom is also another thing that is coming out of tamas, because I feel stuck. I don't feel. So in order to coming out of that tamas, we want some excitement. We need some adrenaline. We need some cortisol release. We need some caffeine. That leads to a lot of emotional eating, unhealthy binging. And when this little patterns of coming out of boredom in an unhealthy way accumulates, that is when it leads to a lot of chronic ailments, chronic issues, toxic patterns, and that leads to many irreversible conditions. So the root DNA, how to recover from that, is to making peace with yourself, dealing with your current situation, and making peace with your loneliness. Now, doesn't mean there is a difference between being lonely and trying to be alone. Loneliness is, in many of us, is termed as insecurity. Now, when we say lonely, so you could be in a great relationship, or you could be in a relationship and still feel lonely. You could be in a group of people and still feel lonely. And you could be by yourself and still feel secure and comfortable with yourself. And that is one state. that we all aspire to be. And that is the beginning of great healings. Now, why are we talking about boredom now? When we are talking about Rajas, Tamas, emotional triggers? Because today we live in a world that does not embrace boredom. We live in a world that does not embrace if things are not exciting. And whenever you see something extremely creative work that has been published, that is because they embraced a lot of boredom. They embraced a lot of uncertainty. In fact, boredom means I'm not able to deal with uncertainty. I'm not able to deal with what's going to happen next. And today, when somebody says, I have issues, I cannot deal with boredom, what they're saying is, I'm not comfortable with uncertainty. I need to know what is going to happen next. And that ability to deal with uncertainty, getting comfortable with uncertainty, is going to be one of the greatest talents of the immediate future, especially after this corona. What this COVID taught us is people are just very incapable of dealing with uncertainty. Because for sure, uncertainty went over the roof. There's no doubt with that. Many business got hit, many people got separated, many things went completely. People had to take a U-turn. But life is full of uncertainties. And dealing with our ability to deal with that uncertainty comes with our ability to embrace change. And again, that is coming out our ability to come out of comfort zone. Now, every time we are in boredom, some of the things that we need to ask is, what is it that I'm trying to repeat the same from my past? And what am I trying to resist? Somewhere we want the same old, sometimes, people watch the same movies because they want the same feelings again. So in order to change that, they also need to have openness to try something new. Sometimes people say, I love surprises, but people want only surprises that they like. And if it is a surprise they don't like, that is what is called as problems. So only if problems happen in their certain set of rules, they call it beautiful. It is fantastic. I love these kind of surprises. It's actually not I love these kind of surprises. I love when things go in this structure. And that is what actually, it's not actually surprise. But they didn't expect it to come in that way. But sometimes when things are going out of that, it is completely changing. When we are able to embrace that, that is when we are able to respond things. See, we cannot change what happens to us, but we do have the ability to change how we respond to the situation that is happening outside. And that again is the state when we are in the state of sattva, our ability to deal with or respond with what is happening to us happens. Now, if you see the word guilt, if you see the word anger, now what does the word guilt comes from? Guilt means I have high standards. Like boredom means I'm not able to deal with the reality and I'm not able to appreciate what is happening. And I am numb. Sometimes when people are eating too much of sweet, little sweet can become very boring because they need more and more sweet to feel that sweetness. And that is what is boring because their threshold has gone up. They are not able to appreciate the little dosage. Same way, what does guilt mean? Guilt means I have high standards and I'm not able to tolerate myself being in this low standard. So because I did something wrong, I am guilty. So that doesn't mean that you cannot change. Guilt just means that either you have high standards and you are not able to meet it, or you have kept higher expectations than what you can really achieve. So either you need to bring down your expectation, at the same time look at what is the possibility of you achieving that. So always ask, am I asking something realistic from myself or am I asking something unrealistic? If something happened in the past that you're not happy with, that is in the past. There is nothing we can do about it. And making peace with the past, like we said, the word happiness means making peace with the reality, making acceptance with the reality. And that ability to accept the reality is so powerful. And one of the ways people can come out of guilt is to understand that was my past. My past is not going to be my future. Definitely, my past could have an influence of who I am right now, but that doesn't mean the future is going to be like that. I learned it and I'm able to take action. Again, if something like similar to that happens to me in the future, I am much more prepared. I am much more equipped. I'm not going to deal with the same thing again. So that message, when we are able to get it from there, that is when guilt becomes a boon. It becomes a learning process. But if we are stuck there, I did something bad in the past, and when we stay stuck there, that is when we are not able to move forward. And that is again tamas. That is again, we feel stuck. So, this ability to take that message, guilt means I have high standards. Yes, I didn't meet it, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like that for the rest of my life. Taking that message and improving, because the word for nature is called as prakriti in Sanskrit. And the word prakriti has two sounds, pra and kruti. The word pra means to evolve, to grow, and kruti means it's a never ending ritual. As long as we are growing, we are in alignment with nature's intelligence. The moment we stop growing, nature will find a way to eliminate. Because you see, what are the things that gets eliminated from nature? Anything that stops growing, anything that stops evolving. And that is how nature's laws are. Anything that is just part of growth, it will stay in alignment with nature's intelligence and nature's laws. And when we get stuck with guilt, that is when our life also stops growing. So it is important to make peace, even if it is the worst decision that or worst thing that happened. If you are able to embrace that, and what is pain? Pain is sometimes something that we are not able to let go. In fact, there is a song, if you want to fly, you need to learn to let go. And that is what let go is, something that is just holding you down. And that sometimes we need to ground ourselves. Sometimes we need to let go that which is not healthy. To understanding what we should let go and where we should ground, that is again the ability of sattva and getting into that sattva. Now, let us take anger. Now, anger is when somebody did something that angers me. It just means that somebody stepped into your boundaries. I have boundaries. When people do not respect that boundaries, I do not tolerate that, and I rage of anger. In fact, many people say Buddha said, but I don't know if Buddha really said, but it's a very beautiful quote. Anger is you drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die, and which is a very powerful statement. In fact, when you see somebody else doing something and you are punishing yourself because the other person did that, and if we find a way to communicate the other person, and what actually anger means, inefficiency in your communication, inefficiency in letting the other person know these are your boundaries, and if you can respect that, you will be in a mindful way. And instead of that, if we react, it only gets things worse. Yes, it is. People say it's very easy to say this, but it's very difficult. Yes, but at the same time, it's also very difficult when you're in anger. And that's why the word anger also has this thing called anger is one letter short of danger, because it can lead to so many dangerous things. People part because of that. People get into unhealthy stuff, toxic things, and this can lead to a lot of devastations. I mean, sometimes anger is very important and anger is very useful. Like I told about Gandhi, like I told about Martin Luther King, because frustration and anger, there's a slight difference between frustration and anger, and both are important as long as we take the message. I wanted to change and communicate what my real boundaries are, because I do not tolerate this. And our ability to express this is again the way it is. We are able to handle the emotions in the right way. In fact, if you have to give a moral of the story, what it means to identify your emotional signal, it all means how good are we in communicating our feelings. Many times we find it difficult to communicate our true feelings. We feel vulnerable to that is why we have this new movement. It's okay to be vulnerable. In fact, there is also a science which talks about people become good friends, or people are able to relate with one another when they are able to be really open up things, when they are able to be vulnerable. And that because we all know deep inside there is a good side and there is a struggling side. And we all have the struggling side, and embracing that struggling side is the beginning of a true healing. It is the foundation of growing higher in your healings or growing higher in your spiritual path. And that accepting that struggle is so important. And there is nothing wrong with that. And that is what this Sudarsana is all about, Sudarsana Chakram. It is about cutting that, somewhere we put all our struggles under the carpet. And it is okay to accept that. And cutting through that ignorance and the fear of embracing that struggle, that is when we are just doing a symptomatic relief. We are just taking a painkiller to subside, and later it compounds in a big manner. So every time there is an emotional trigger that is happening, thank the person who is giving this trigger. It is so important. Every time there is a situation, experience, or any memories, or a person who looks like somebody from your past that gave you a painful experience, thank that, because he's letting you know where the healing has to happen. That is why there is a statement by Rumi: it is through the wound the light enters your part. And accepting that is one of the ways we evolve and grow. And that is also why the word Aham Brahmasmi, I am the creator of my life. And there are many statements, you are exactly where you have to be. Because somewhere, because of our karma, because of our choices, because of our existence, we are exactly where we need to be. The moment we make peace with that, we are exactly where we need to be. That is where our ability to stay in and tap into that area of sattva comes in. And from there, we are able to grow forward, to move forward. And that is where the beginning of healing is. And that is what swastha is. Swastha means connecting with your true inner self. Sure, I'll be taking some questions. So this is our website, Sitaram Beach Retreat. This is the Panchakarma retreat that I run, where people come for Ayurvedic treatments and where they are able to undergo treatments with Ayurveda and also connect with nature. This is in Kerala. This is like 1.5 hours from the Cochin airport. Now, these are some of the locations. The purpose of this place is where people come and connect with themselves and connect with nature, because when you connect with nature, you connect with yourself. And we have 27 rooms and on-site doctors. And we have the highest COVID safety protocols that is right now. And we are also an NABH accredited hospital, which means if you have insurance, you do have the possibility to claim it. And this is the contact details. And I will share some of the contents, some of the meditations that I recommend. Now, when we talk about clarity, there is a mantra that I recommend. One is Mrityunjay mantra and Gayatri mantra. These are mantras which are very powerful. So last time when I said about Gayatri mantra, people were asking where can I learn the proper way of chanting Gayatri mantra or Mrityunjay mantra? These are two YouTube links called ganapati.com, which I highly recommend because they chant it with the most purest pronunciations, which you can learn. It is there in YouTube. And this is my, if you want to do online consultations with me, you can find the links here as the world has gone online. And there is also a podcast and some of the meditations. And today I was talking about anger and certain things about dealing with emotions. There is one anger management meditation, if any of you are dealing with, and also there are something with fear also. This is also in Spotify. It is opportunity meditations. You can listen to that, and I'll put it in the chat here. You can go through that. And I will put in all the mantras, Mrityunjay mantra, and I hope you're able to get that here. And these webinars we are trying to keep it free. And if you find it informative and if you'd like to donate, I'm putting the link here in PayPal. And if you're from India, there is a link that you can do that. And also the link to make personal consultations with me are also there. How to deal with anger when one is living in triggered environment. Understand the trigger. why it is triggering you, and learn to communicate. It is all about how to communicate, why it is triggering you, and what can be changed. If you can have that open, vulnerable conversation and explain why this is happening, that is a way that you can also help the other person understand this is creating a lot of issues. How can one stave off past experiences and vasanas from impacting the present? And that is what it's all about: awareness. Why it is triggering you and going deep into the triggering factors. That is the way you can come out of it. If it is creating too much of trigger, then you need to go deep there. And as long as we are not able to deal with the triggers, why it is triggering me, it is difficult to come out of that past. Thank you, Marcin. Thank you for the feedback. Okay, I see something in the difference between and guru and tamas. You still not said. Thank you for reminding me. The word guru, sometimes we get into too much of overthinking. We are unwantedly anxious about anxiety. What can go wrong? What can go wrong? And guru means heaviness that brings stability towards you. If you see a flight, it will fly, but why do we feel safe in it? Because it knows when to land. And that ability to land and to get grounded, that is why it is safe. So guru is something that lets you fly, but at the same time, when you are supposed to ground, you can ground. But tamas is, it just stuck there. You're not able to take off. So that's the difference between guru and tamas. Your ability to land when it is required and to be safe. Can an overactivity of rajas, particularly fear, create a feeling of being stuck? If Philippa Brown, if you could rephrase that question again, it will be helpful. So I hope I answered that question. Tamas and guru, both are groundedness, but with guru, again, like sattva, you have the flexibility to get into the state of rajas, and tamas when it is required at the right time. Guru is like you are using the ability to feel heavy and to be stable. The word stable is the best word. How is an online consultation effective? Because for a panchakarma therapy, you need to be physically present around therapist doctors. So the online consultation is not about panchakarma. It is about your lifestyle changes, some of the medications that you can use. And there are certain panchakarma therapies that if your current situation requires that, I recommend them, you can do at home, and I'll be giving them the guidelines. But definitely it's not a substitute for doing an on-site panchakarma with the therapist. Online consultation is more of a guidance of how to improve your quality of health at home. Can an overactivity of feeling fear lead to feeling stuck in life? And that is what people who are having panic attacks, it is too much of fear, they are not able to move forward. So definitely too much feeling of fear can lead to feeling stuck. It is, we can also call it a short circuit of the nervous system. Any exercise to get sattva energy in oneself? Yes, definitely. Exercises like pranayama, daily routines, dinacharya, meditations, eating food that are rich in prana. And also, I wanted to explain, when we eat food that are rajasic, it improves more activity. When we eat food that are tamasic, we feel lazy. And when we eat food that are sattvic, we are able to tap into both. Sometimes we might need energy, so sometimes it's okay to eat rajasic. Sometimes we feel there is a need to be grounded. Sometimes it's okay to eat something sweet. So it depends on to where you are. So definitely, if you listen to my podcast, Ayurvedic Healing and Beyond, do check into some of my earlier episodes where I talk about pranayama, where I talk about prana and the influence of how to regulate the prana in your life. So that will help you to understand how to tap into the state of sattva more. Hope all of you, will a Jyotish reading help to understand the past? As long as the Jyotish is a very good person, definitely, because if you consult with a good Vedic astrologer, definitely it will be very helpful. Can one both have tamas and rajas issues at the same time? Yes, definitely. Sometimes we also call it mood swings. Definitely, it is possible to have tamas and rajas at the same time, but In order to bring that balance, that is why we need guru. That is why we need to learn about spiritual teachings. That is why we need to get into healthy practices. So if somebody is saying they are having rajas and tamas issues at the same time, sometimes they feel depressed, sometimes they feel anxious. It moves up and down. So the ability to stay in that way is the way forward. What happens when one has excess sattva? Now, it is very difficult to say there is excess sattva. Saying something there is excess sattva is like saying there is too much of light. In fact, light helps us to see things clearly, but sometimes if it is too much that we miss the whole point, then it is not healthy. But we need the light at the right direction. So if the sattva is blinding you, it is not sattva, then it is blinding you. So we need the light in such a way that we can see things clearly. Thank you, Prachi Shah, for your comments. Really appreciate. I have some more questions. Doctor, can you please tell what causes excessive mucus in the morning? If you're taking too much of tamasic food, mucus is a result of too much of tamasic food, too much of food which has kapha, too much of food that has sugar, sweetness, and saltiness. How can the mental state of people we hang out with affect us? Definitely, the people who you are surrounded with, if they are positive, you will also be influenced with it. If people are negative, that will also influence us. So it is also very important who you let them enter into your energy field. So I hope it was interesting. The next webinar I will keep posted on Wednesday, and please check your newsletter if that is happening. I will be deciding it only in the next few days because of certain things. And I hope you all got a... Yes, I hope you all had a good time and have a wonderful Sunday evening. Thank you all.